In this lesson, we're going to be looking at what factors and multiples are. Now, you're going to find this a bit easier if you're pretty good at your times tables. Otherwise, it might take you a little bit longer to find the numbers. So starting with factors, the factors of a number are any values that multiply to get that number. So if I'm looking for the factors of 20, I might start by looking at my multiplication table. Which numbers multiply to get 20? Well, there's one right here. 2 times 10 gets 20. That means that 2 and 10 are factors of 20. Are there any other ones? Here we go. 4 times 5 is there. That equals 20. So that means 4 and 5 are factors of 20. Now notice that there's another 20 right here, but that's 4 and 5 again. They're just round the other way. So we don't write it down again because we've already got 4 and 5 there. So all we have to do is just ignore that one. And same with the next one down here. See, this is another 20 on there, but that's 10 and 2. We've already got 10 and 2 there. And so we'd ignore that one as well. Now, the problem with only using our times tables, though, is not all factors are on your times tables, because this is any two numbers that multiply to get 1 and 20. And although it's not obvious immediately, there's two numbers missing here, and that is 1 and 20. 1 times 20 is 20. And so just using our times tables isn't always going to be enough. We're going to need to look for probably a bit of a better method. Right, so let's try and do it without our times tables. We're going to try and find all the factors of 30. So this is all the numbers you can multiply together to get 30. So the first one I'm going to write down is 1 and 30. They will always be the first two factors you should write down, because every single number has 1 and itself as factors, because of course you can always times a number by 1 and you get that same number. Okay, so 1 the number, always the first one you should think of. Now after that, I'm going to count upwards. So I started at 1, now I'm going to count upwards. I'm going to try 2, because does 2 go into 30? I'm just going to try 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So does 2 go into 30? Yes, it does, and it goes in 15 times. Now, if you're wondering how I got 15 so quick, I know that if 2 goes into it, just halve the number, and that's how many times 2 goes into it. Nice and easy. And now next one is 3. Does 3 go into 30? Well, yep, it sure does, because 3 times 10 is actually on our times table, so that was an easier one. Does 4 go into 30? No, it doesn't, because 4 times 7 is 28, 4 times 8 is 32. It misses 30 there, so we can't write down 4. What about 5? 5 times 6 is 30. That's another one that's on our times table, so that's okay. And now, if I count up to 6, well, I've already got 6 here, so I'm not going to bother trying 6 again, and at this point I can stop, because as soon as I get to another number I've already got, I can stop. In fact, I don't even have to go all the way to that number. If the numbers are further apart, you've only got to go halfway. And so let's say our numbers were 3 and 7. Right, that was our last numbers, 3 and 7. And so I would try 4 and I would try 5. But 5's halfway between 3 and 7, so I'd stop there. There's no need to try 6 once you get past the halfway point. All right, we'll see that in a bit of action in one of the examples. Now, multiples are much easier to find than factors, because to get multiples, all you have to do is multiply your number by any other value and you've found a multiple. So if I'm looking for the multiples of 4, I'm going to start by multiplying it by 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and I'll get my multiples. It's times tables, once again, quite useful here, because the first one I'm going to do is just 4 times 1. And so that's my first multiple. The next one I'm going to do is 4 times 2. So really, I'm just writing down the times tables, aren't I? The next one will be 12. And the next one will be 16. And the next one will be 20. And I could keep going. In fact, multiples go forever. There's only a certain number of factors, but multiples go on for as long as you want. Because, 4 times a million is 4 million. And there's lots of numbers higher than a million to multiply by. So, usually the question will tell you only find the first 5 or 6 or anything along those lines. But anyway, so that's multiples. Much easier than factors. So let's have a quick look at some examples. So the first one, we're going to list all the factors of 32. And so I'm going to write down 1 and 32 first. Remember, they are always the first ones you write down, the 1 and the number itself. And now I'm going to start thinking of 2, because I did 1. 2, does 2 go into 32? It does, because 32 is even. And so I halve 32, which is 16. That'll tell me my next two. Now, does 3 go into 32? Well, it doesn't, because 10 threes are 30, 11 threes are 33, so 32 gets missed, so I don't write down 3. What about 4? 4, it's on my times tables. 4 times 8 is 32, so I write it down. Does 5 go into 32? Well, once again, I can check my 5 times tables. 32 won't be on it. And 6, check my 6 times tables. 32 is not on it. And I'm not going to bother with 7, because remember, this 4 and this 8 here, halfway between that is 6. So you only go halfway between the next one, halfway towards the next one. After that, don't bother. Now, you can try 7 if you want. I guarantee you it's not going to be on there, because I've already gone more than halfway. If you're not sure what all that halfway stuff means, or you don't want to worry about it, then just keep going until you get to this number here. You're just going to try a few extra numbers than you need to. But anyway, that's all the factors of 32 listed, and using that method that just counts upwards. All right, the second one is an example with multiples. Let's list the first 6 multiples of 7. Really easy stuff. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Just keep going down our times tables. 7 times 3, 21. 7 times 4, 28. 7 times 5, 35. 7 times 6 is 42. And we're done. There's no need to write down any working for these. When you start looking for factors and multiples in other more complex questions, then you'll be able to do a bit of working. But you don't need to show any working for actually how to find factors and multiples. It's a relatively straightforward, just something we want to come really quickly to us. So let's give it a go with some practice questions. Remember to pause the video. And there's our solutions to those ones. Let's just quickly go over those. I'm going to start by listing all the factors of 18. And so the first ones I wrote down were 1 and 18. Always the easiest ones, 1 and the number itself. And then, okay, I've done 1. What about 2? Does 2 go into 18? And it does. Firstly, because 18 is even. Also, secondly, it's actually on my times tables. So 2 times 9 is 18, so I wrote them both down. Now I've done 2. Let's try 3. Does 3 go into 18? Yep, it does, because it's on my times tables. 3 times 6 is 18, and so I wrote those down. And then I tried 4. Is it on my 4 times tables? No, it's not. Now, I don't really need to try 5, because halfway between 3 and 6 is 4.5. So 5's further along than that. I don't bother trying it. But if you did, you'd find out that 5 is not on your 18 is not on your 5 times tables. And now if we try the second one, we've got list 6 multiples of 4, and so all we had to do here was count up our 4 times tables, and really the only thing you had to look for here is make sure you don't write down more than 6 of them. So here's a couple more. If you need to have another go, remember to pause the video. And there's the solutions to those ones. And that brings us to the end of the lesson.